Hi guys, it's the Viking and welcome back to Movies That Matter. I just finished The Boys Season 2 last night. Now, a few weeks ago, when the first 3 episodes dropped, I watched the 3 episodes, and then they were dropping them week by week on Amazon, which was very different from last year. If I remember, they dropped them all together and people just binged them and absolutely freaked out. But I wanted to kind of watch them all together, and there's not many shows nowadays that people watch week to week. There's certain shows that I think are good for that kind of stuff, but The Boys isn't really one of those where you can break down each episode and look for Easter eggs or symbolism and stuff like that. But I wanted to wait until the rest of the episodes drop, so I watched the following 5 episodes over the last 2 nights, and I had a pretty good time. Season 1, I was late to the party. I think I started watching it in February. That was actually the first thing I watched during lockdown. It was the very start of lockdown. I got into The Boys. I watched the 8 episodes, fell in love, couldn't stop watching them, had them watching probably a day and a half. That's how much enjoyment I found of it. And I think the big craze about it was because it was so different. We're so used to the Marvel and the DC being PG-13, and then this show comes where it pushes that kind of R rating, it pushes that edge, it's gritty, and it's not afraid to curse or put blood in your face and all that stuff. And there's plenty of blood over these 2 seasons. But season 2, of course, big anticipation from everybody. Everybody was so excited for this season. And me, for one, I was excited as well. I'm not a huge fan of this Boys TV show in terms that I have to watch the episodes right now. And that kind of shows where I waited and I wanted to get all 8 episodes at once. But this kind of Justice League-like team that's controlled by the government, that a narrative story is created by the media, and this dark Justice League team. What if the Justice League were just absolute bastards, absolute dickheads to the world on the down low? And this is what that show is kind of about. Then you have the boys, you got Butcher, you got Huey, you got Frenchie. They're trying to take down these soups, Season 2, we have a new character, Stormfront. And we eventually find out that she is as a Nazi, a neo-Nazi. She hates black people, hates people of different colour, wants white power, wants white to control the world, and that's why she kind of manipulates Homelander a little bit. But overall, this season was pretty good. It's not as good as season 1 for me, and I think a part of that is probably because season 1 was so new, so different. We were like, oh my god, this is unbelievable, and now we're used to these characters, we're used to the way that the story is told, so maybe that kind of brought down the quality for us as fans a little bit more. Overall, the 8 episodes were good enough. Now, this show isn't actually that high of a budget of a show, because even in season 1, I remember watching it, so these costumes are pretty cool, but they're not really doing a lot in the costumes. There's a lot of character development over the 2 seasons, there's a lot of character arcs, there's a lot of interaction, and the dialogue is very funny, very interesting, and it keeps you engaged. And it was the exact same in season 2. When there's action, it's done in small doses. It's not just action scene, action scene, action scene. There's the comedy, there's the dialogue, there's the story progression, the character development, and then you get a really cool action scene, probably in a split second like that, where the blood goes on their face, or there's a terrible death. And I like the way that they find creative ways to create new ways that people die, whether it be human beings, whether it be soups. I find them very interesting. You never know what's going to happen, and the show is very unpredictable. You don't know what character is going to die at any time in the show, which is a plus for us as fans, because you don't want to be knowing what's going to go ahead. You don't want to think that character is safe, that character is never going to die, because there's elements and there's times in this season I felt they were setting up Butcher for a character arc where he died, or they set up Huey for a character arc where he was going to die. So there was different things like that I thought was very, very interesting. Homelander, played by Anthony Starr, look, he's brilliant. I watched him in Banshee before a few years ago. If you haven't seen that show, it's brilliant. It's full of sex, it's full of violence. Absolutely it's a man's man show. It's absolutely brilliant. And he's a great actor, he really is, and he personifies this role of Homelander. Every single scene Anthony Starr is in as a Homelander, he steals the scene. He does, and he is the star of this season once again. Absolutely brilliant. I said on Twitter, he's probably, at the moment, the most interesting and probably best TV character right now. Unbelievable. You never know what Homelander is going to do next. He's obsessed with being loved, by being in the fame light. Everyone wants to be friends with Homelander, and he loves this. He loves having this control and this power because he is this Superman-like being. He basically is God who can do absolutely anything, and he tells us that at the end of the season on that rooftop scene. We'll come to that in a little bit. What I like about this season is it sets up so many different storylines, so many different character acts. You got the boys, you got Butcher, you got Huey, you got Frenchie, he's very funny. You got Mother's Milk, you've got Kimiko, you got Starlight, who kind of is a part of the boys but also a part of the Seven, and they've got some good stories, individual stories. And what I like about this season is there's closure to the character arcs, to the story. You don't get that in every show. Even some shows that are ending their series, the character arcs are never completed. And I thought this season, even though there's a season 3 coming and a season 4, the stories, their character arcs, were completely sewn up in this season. And if they actually wanted to and ended at season 2 and said that's it, then I think in a way I'd be happy because each character had their individual ending. They did, you know. Most of this season is surrounded by Homelander and Stormfront. Stormfront, as I said, being a neo-Nazi, she wants to manipulate Homelander. But Homelander is kind of in this phase where he wants to be a father because he does have a father with Butcher's wife. You know, so, and he meets his son and he thinks his son has superpowers and he thinks his son is the first natural born superhero coming in as an offspring, and he wants to get that connection with him because his son is going to be probably as powerful as he is. The son is been shielded off from society by his mother. He doesn't know what it's like to be in large groups. We get to see that later on in the season. He has anxiety around large groups and he can't control his power when he gets angry, especially when his mother is being threatened. The action scenes in this season, when they're done, are pretty good. They're okay. As I said, they're not given to us in large doses. They're given to us in small doses, but done pretty well. And it seems like most of the budget was spent on blood and guts. There's a courtroom scene where just people's heads start exploding. And that's actually ridiculous. And it was funny and gruesome. And, you know, done really well. There's even that scene at the end of the season in the last episode where Homelander's on top of the roof and he's masturbating. You know, this show is not afraid to push the edge. And many people I've seen talk on Twitter says they're pushing the edge because they can. It doesn't really mean anything. But look, that's what works for them. That's what they like doing. This is what this show is about, pushing that edge, doing something different, not afraid to hold back, you know, and I do like that, and I do appreciate it because it's something different. It's not something to get annoyed over, you know. If you don't like it, you can criticize it, but just don't keep going on about it. Talk about the stuff that you do like about the show, you know. Stormfront's ending in this season, killed by Homelander's son, his powers seem like they're going to be very powerful. You know, his mother has died now. Butcher was going to hand them over to the government. They were going to say, look, I want my wife, you can have Homelander's son, and we'll go away, and that's what's going to happen. But of course, she dies. Butcher has to protect his, more or less, his son now, his wife's son, because she told him to before she died. And he hands him over to better people. But I have a feeling now in the next couple of seasons that his son will be too powerful to control. You know, he's been pushed off from society for a very long time. He doesn't know what it's like to control his powers or interact with people. So will he become a supervillain or a superhero? I'm guessing more on the supervillain side. And if Homelander gets his way, even though Maeve put him in his place about, look, I'll release the video of you leaving those people on the plane to die if you don't leave everybody alone, if you don't let everybody live. And Homelander basically says, look, I'll kill everybody. And I love this scene because then Maeve goes, I don't care, but at least everybody will know what kind of a monster you are. And this annoys Homelander even more because he wants to be loved. If that video goes out, nobody will love him. People will turn against him, and he may burn the whole world and kill every single person, but nobody will be left to love Homelander, and he'll be all alone. And that's what he deals with mostly in this season, is loneliness. You know, he wants people to love him, and he probably wants a son because he wants to be the father that he never had. And Homelander's a very good arc in this season, and that's why he's been the best character over the last 2 seasons. Now, Huey in this season, of course, we get to see him come back as an important member of the boys, and he seems to be kind of taken over as a leader for Butcher in many aspects. Of course, Butcher comes back and he takes over, but Huey was okay in this season. You know, I think he was a bit better in season 1. You know, it was interesting seeing him deal with all these surroundings and stand up to the Supes and want to defeat the Supes, but also having that kind of that love interest, his love interest in this show, Annie, their relationship's okay, they got good chemistry. But overall this season, it's good, but it's not as good as season 1. But I'm looking forward to season 3. You got Jeffrey Dean Morgan is returning, or he's going to be coming in season 3, which is going to be pretty cool. I wonder what character he will play. You got that character that was in the actor was in the X-Men films. He can manipulate fire and light and stuff like that. He was pretty cool, and they killed him off after an episode or 2, which I wasn't expecting whatsoever. But that's what this show has: things that you're not expecting to happen. The side arcs, the side stories. You had A-Train, you had Deep Dive, and they kind of had a story where they were a part of a Scientology-like group. And for most of the season, I was kind of thinking, where is this going? Deep is trying to have this redemption. He's trying to change his personality. He's trying to get back into the Seven, and he joins this kind of Scientology group, and it kind of goes nowhere in the end. A-Train winds up back in the Seven. He gives the important files that shows that Stormfront is a neo-Nazi, and then Starlight can expose her then in the end. So A-Train gets back in. He kind of does an important thing, even though he had nothing to do really all season. But it seems like they just pushed those two characters to the side for most of the season. It was like, what will we do with them? Well, we'll just have A-Train come in here in the last minute and save the day in terms of the files, and then Deep, we'll just figure out what to do with him in season 3. So I would like to see a little bit more, because I think Deep, there's a potential there having Deep for a very, very cool, a very, very interesting character arc. There is. Very, very cool. Redemption, him maybe getting back to the Seven or the United States government, something like that. I think there's something you could pretty much, a good story you could tell. But if they don't have anything planned, then it shows they don't know what to do with this character. And I was even having conversations there on Twitter before I made this video, especially with Mark Jarbo. He's a YouTube channel as well. I was talking about that scene where Kimiko, and you've got Starlight, and you've got Maeve taking on Stormfront. They're absolutely beating her down. And it's a pretty cool scene. It's a fun scene. Some music kicks in as well, and they're just beating her down to the ground. And that kind of girl power, and girls do get it done, as Frenchie would say. But I just showed the Avengers lineup where all the women come and save the day, and then the boys version where the women come and just absolutely take names, absolutely beat the hell out of Stormfront. Because one was forced and one was kind of part of the story. Even though Maeve just came in at the last minute as well. That was pointed out to me on Twitter. But Maeve didn't really have much to do in this season either. She was afraid of Homelander, and she finally got over that fear in the end. But she was more in fear of what would happen to her love interest, her girlfriend, and her being a lesbian, which gets exposed as well. But she didn't have much to do either. So of all the 7 members, Homelander, Stormfront, and Starlight probably had the best character arcs, while Black Noir, who is kind of the Batman version of this world in a way, he's a pretty cool badass character. He had one cool fight scene in the desert where he was just killing people for fun, but other than that, he didn't really have much to do either. And these are cool characters. And I know it's called The Boys, and it's focused a lot on the boys and what they're trying to do. It's focused a lot on Starlight and Homelander and Stormfront, but those characters are pretty interesting as well. What you do by not giving them interesting stories is you decrease their kind of popularity for me. You decrease their character development, you decrease their character status. So you need to do something interesting with them. So season 3, I want to see more of those characters. Give them better stories, give them more dialogue, give them more stuff to do, and then make us think, wow, these characters are pretty interesting as well, just like Homelander and Starlight. So that's what I want to see going forward. But overall, a great season. I had a lot of fun with this season. It was a good watch. I wasn't bored. Something to do, something to watch, something fun, something different from any other comic book material that we get nowadays. And especially in a time of COVID where not much comic book movies or series are coming out due to COVID, it's good to get something like The Boys, which at the end of the day is made pretty well and has that kind of feeling to it where anything can happen, and I don't know what to expect. I'm looking forward to season 3. I really, really am. For me, I can't wait to see what happens with Homelander next. That scene at the very end where he is in the press conference and they're making up this false story that Maeve and Starlight helped Homelander defeat Stormfront, and Stormfront was a neo-Nazi. She was undercover, they didn't know anything about it. Starlight was made up to be this villain that she wasn't, and they're putting everything right in this press conference. You have Homelander, and he's just there and he's smiling and he's giving a speech, but you can see in his eyes, that he could just snap at any minute. You know, and that's, imagine being around someone like that. Imagine being around a Superman who could snap at any minute. He could be all friends with you, talking and having fun, and the next minute you don't even know that you're dead. Simply, that's what it is, you know. But I can't wait for season 3. I enjoyed this season a lot. Not as good as season 1, but again, it was hard to reach those heights because that was a brand new show in season 1, something different, something new. But guys, let me know your thoughts about The Boys season 2 on Amazon. Did you like it? Did you watch it all together, the 8 episodes, or were you waiting in anticipation each week? Give a like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts on The Boys. Come follow me on social media, Movies That Matter the Viking, or Movies That Matter with the Viking, and we'll talk about this stuff. Don't be afraid to come and tag me in anything. I love engaging with you guys. I love talking about movies. That's the main thing. Guys, I'll see you next time. And Homelander was masturbating on top of a building. I should try that.